welcome to the show. If you are watching this on YouTube, do me a favor and hit that like button and also that subscribe button if you haven't done that already. You can also subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening, Spotify, Apple, wherever. My guest today is a big one, Rob DeLuca. He has played with George Lynch, Joan Jett, Sebastian Bach, UFO, and of course his own band, Spread Eagle. He's toured with Guns N' Roses, and he's got a lot of great stories. Seems like a really great guy, and very positive, says nice things about all the people he's worked with. And I think if you're a regular listener to the show, you're really going to like this one. I really enjoyed it. I think you will too. Here you go. Okay, please welcome Rob DeLuca to my podcast. How you doing, Rob?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here. Really glad to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. I think we got a lot to talk about because you've done so much over your career, but it all starts with Spread Eagle. That was the first band, well, the first big band that I know of that you were in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so tell me the story, though. So you guys were signed to MCA, and you had never played a gig. I've never heard of anything like this. You only had 5 songs, and they signed you. Tell me how this happened.
Well, it's a true story. How's my volume, Chuck?
It's great.
Okay. It's a true story. We had been in a lot of bands trying to get signed before that. We were up in Boston for a while. I come from Delaware originally, so we were from all over the place. Paul DiBartolo was from Jersey. Ray was born in Brooklyn, and he also lived in Florida. So we had been in a bunch of bands, and we were always trying to get a record deal because, especially back then, signing to a label was everything.
Yeah.
So we moved to New York, and how do you want the real long story, the medium story, or the short story?
Whichever one you prefer. I got all the time in the world, so whatever you want to tell.
Well, we were in Boston, and we had a band, and it broke up, and Paul moved to New York and joined Ray's band, which was called Fox Hunt. And Paul joined as the second guitar player, Paul DiBartolo.
Okay.
And Paul, you can imagine would have a problem playing second fiddle to someone else just because he's so talented. And it was this other guitar player's band. So that didn't work out. And so Tommy Gallo and I moved down to New York City and, formed a band. Ray wasn't in the band, even though Paul knew him because Paul had just played with him in his band, Fox Hunt. So we planned to look for a singer, and we were doing demos. We were rehearsing underground in a basement space on Lafayette Street. Lafayette Street, called Loho. And I was actually trying to sing on the demos, believe it or not. And it wasn't right yet. So we had Ray come in and sing some demo stuff he still wasn't joining the band. He was just helping us out. And once he sung on it, I think, I'm not totally sure of this, but I think we had the songs like Switchblade Serenade, Spread Eagle. We had a song called Gun Shy, and probably Scratch Like a Cat. And so Ray sung on it, and it was just so amazing that, the writing was on the wall at that point. So Ray left his band Fox Hunt, joined us. We booked some shows to get ready to gig, outside of New York City, like up north, a half an hour, or maybe in Jersey and stuff like that. And our manager, we had 2 managers. One of our managers, Charlie Gambetta, invited some of his friends down to see us rehearse to give opinions because we wanted to get signed as soon as possible.
Sure.
And we wanted to succeed. And all the people the first day, people were like, we are really interested in this band. We think we want to sign them. And we were like, we didn't expect that. We weren't fishing for that. We were looking for like a quick, not easy necessarily, but a quick, efficient route to getting what we wanted, to making records, but we didn't know how to get there. We were just trying to get opinions on how, what we could do to be better. And people were saying, you can't, you guys are good. So the first day we had some opinions, like we think, we would be interested in this band. And then second day, MCA came down and said, we want to sign the band tomorrow at noon. So we canceled the gigs. We thought about it for maybe a day or maybe a couple days. Like, are we jumping into this with MCA? Should we? Because we had, and at this point, we had about, it was a few days, I think, and people were starting to call the studio, like A&M and Sony came down, and
Wow.
word got out.
That is quite a buzz for a band that has never played a gig.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think some people were probably just thinking, we don't know how good it is, but we're hearing this hype. In New York City, it's big, but it's also small.
Yeah. And also this is 89, right? When everybody, Guns N' Roses and Motley Crue are huge and and everyone's looking for the next Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, this was 89. So this was probably, I'm going to guess April of 89. So roughly. A guy named Mike Bone came down. He was at Island, I think. And I had my bass, because the room was just this little tiny room down in the basement. And I had him pinned up against the wall with my bass playing Scratch Like a Cat. And it was up against his chest. And he was like, I never saw him since, but he went on to become, he was a successful A&R guy, and he did a bunch of stuff in the industry. But I remember he was telling people that he was a little afraid. So the end of the story is that Sony really, really, really wanted us, but they were on their company convention. You know how those labels used to have conventions, and they would be back in like 4 days, and then he had the guy who was pretty high up. I think he was head of A&R. He had to get everyone on board. So he thought like maybe 10 days to 2 weeks we could showcase for that and for Sony. And we were new to this, even though we had two managers who were smart guys, they weren't like, they didn't have other bands, So we were worried that something could happen where MCA could say, no, we don't want you to go through this process. We want you now, or we don't want you. So we signed with MCA, and we canceled the gigs and went right into the studio.
Yeah.
Shortly thereafter.
It's a tough decision because on the one hand, if you waited out, you could have maybe gotten a better deal or a better record company. But if you don't wait, if you say no to MCA, then maybe those other record labels lose interest. And it's like, you're taking a gamble either way.
Bad showcase. But Sony was going to set up a showcase for the whole label. That's what, that was their plan. They're like, the guy was like, we want to sign, the guy was Mike Corbett was his name. He's like, I want to sign the band, and I have the power to sign the band, but I have to just at least show the band, so we need a showcase. So no one absolutely, gives a negative. So, but what if you have a bad showcase or something,
Right.
So we just did it. And, and say it was a big label. They had, in the 70s, they had Elton, and they had Skinner, and they had The Who, and, but they had gotten away from rock for quite a while. And all those people were long gone. And it was a soul urban R&B label, and they decided to get into rock because of what you mentioned, Guns N' Roses and Bon Jovi and all that. But they were a little late to the game, and they didn't really, have it sussed out yet. They didn't have it down to an art yet, and that hurt us.
Yeah, because you had those songs, like you said, the Scratch Like a Cat, Switchblade Serenade, which I think is got to be the greatest song title of all time. One of my favorites, Back on the Bitch. I love that song. That sounds like a Guns N' Roses type of song. And these singles are on the radio and they're on Headbangers Ball. But, it's interesting because usually with a young band, you get on some sort of big tour, like you would have opened for Scorpions or Guns N' Roses or something like that. But then they had you guys doing this club tour with Vane.
which wasn't bad. I mean,
Yeah.
Vane, at the time we hated Vane, but I've become friends with them and I like them a lot now. I
Yeah.
like their music too.
Yeah. So tell me the story, what happened with her, because there was some bad blood at the time. But like you said, you're friends now. But what was this thing like? It ended, the tour ended because you guys crashed their set when you showed up buck naked on the stage?
I'm not a big drug guy, so I remember a lot of this stuff. But I don't remember that much. But I think Tommy was naked. And they were, at the time, you know, you got guys in their early 20s, you know, like it's, you know, you can take things the wrong way. Everyone's kind of protective and, you know, domineering and whatever. So we all thought we were in the best band, you know, everyone I knew thought they were in the best band in the world at the time, and they acted like that, you know? So that can be grating. And I'm not just saying coming from us, you know, they were the same way. But they did. I have to say, at the time, they weren't good at taking jokes, you know, because we wanted to have, you know, a good time and play some jokes, and they weren't into it. So, they were headlining because their album was out and our album wasn't out yet. We had the Scratch Like a Cat video on MTV, Hamburger's Ball.
Yeah.
But our album was not out. It was not available. So it was kind of like, you know, they were headlining, but it was draw wise, we were drawing as many people as that, and easily. And so I think Tommy jumped on stage naked. Yeah, I think it was something like that. And they sent a letter we shared a booking agent. That's why it was pretty simple to put that together. They were called Famous Artists, two bands that were not famous. So they sent them a letter saying why they were throwing us off tour and all the reasons. It was very formal, and we carried knives. They were concerned for their safety, things like that.
Wow.
We didn't respect them enough. I know those were three things on it. So,
but somehow you were able to, you're friends with them now, and you guys can laugh about all this, or?
Yeah. I mean, I don't talk about it that much. I don't bring it up.
You don't dredge up the past.
I'm sure they remember it, but I don't need to bring that up, especially, you know, in hindsight, it's such a little thing, you know?
Yeah. So you also feel like MCA pulled you off the road too quickly.
They did.
To make the second album open to the public. But then they owed you a music video for this album, and they didn't do it. So that was kind of your out to get out of the contract, right?
Yes and no. I'm not, to clarify, they pulled us off the road on the first album, and we were blindsided because the minute they put in that call or meeting or whatever it was, we were still convinced we were going to be the biggest band in the world, or one of the biggest bands in the world. And we thought we were doing great. We were touring. We decided we did like a loop of the USA. And when we started in the Pacific Northwest, and when we got back to the West Coast, we decided to blow off the last few dates, going back to the Pacific Northwest and stay in Hollywood for like a month gigging. So we stayed there for a month, which was cool. And we were getting a lot of press in Hollywood that we hadn't gotten. Because, you know, when you're there, that was the thick of it. You remember that. And things were looking really good. And we're meeting a lot of people. And then we got this call that we had to pack it up, come home and record a new album. And we were like, well, like you said, we haven't gone to Europe yet. We haven't gone to Japan yet. We haven't gone out supporting a band yet, you know, because Vane, like I said, technically we were support, but we were drawing as many people as them. So, you know, and they knew that. Because we both had pretty much one video on MTV Headbangers Ball.
Yeah, that's more like a co-headlining too. You'd think that they'd have you open up for some big giant, like I said, like a Guns N' Roses or something.
And that's what we expected.
Yeah.
So we were absolutely blindsided. And so then we came home, and then that's when things, you know, started to fall apart a little bit, because we had a lot of momentum, and we really believed in ourselves and our music, our musical statement. And then we were told by the label it didn't this album didn't succeed to their expectations. So then everyone started questioning, you know, what we're doing, and people started taking more drugs, and you know, and it was just a lot of things started happening. You know, we didn't make any money, obviously, off the first album, and that was, you know, all of a sudden, you know, you don't think about things like that because you're going to be the biggest band in the world. But then when they pull you home, and they say your album didn't succeed, you're like, well, you know, you start thinking about things like, you know, money and stuff, you know, just enough to pay rent, I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
So, that was about that. That was in late 90, I'd say.
Okay.
90.
Yeah. So then the second album comes out, and then you guys break up.
Right. So then to answer your question, yeah, they didn't give us, we had a video well, just to backtrack for a second, our album wasn't out when we went out with Vane. So we didn't have a video budget yet. So we made Scratch Like a Cat through favors and our own money. Our manager, one of our managers, Scott Calvert, was one of the biggest MTV directors at the time. He did DJ Jazzy Jeff, Parents Just Don't Understand, I think it's called, something like that.
Yeah.
He did Guns N' Roses Live at the Ritz. He directed that. And big, huge stuff. I mean, he won the MTV award for that Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince video.
That was a big one.
You know, he was doing Cyndi Lauper and, you know, everyone. He was one of the biggest there. So, he got us Scratch Like a Cat without any money from MCA, and then they gave us money and we did Switchback. So on to your question for the second album. So now, you know, we're worried about MCA, and they obviously didn't do the right thing on the first album. We're very worried about them, and they wouldn't give us a video. And we're like, well, we know we're not going to break. Now we're talking the second album. And we're like, well, we know we can't break this album without a video, especially back then.
Yeah.
You know, back then MTV was the biggest radio station in the world, you know?
Right.
So if you didn't even have any possibility to get on that biggest radio station in the world, you know you're not going to succeed. So after they refused to give us a video, we saw out, and we got out, and we planned on continuing with the four of us. Actually, Tommy had left at that point, I think. I'm not sure. Tommy was leaving and coming back. So I'm not sure the exact timeline of that, but and we planned to continue and get a new deal. We had Sony still waiting, actually, and staying in touch with us. And but Ray quit first, and then Paul quit, and so. Does that answer your question?
And that was it for a while. So then, yeah, you take jobs that you're working as a bartender and as a carpenter, but you're still playing in other bands. So tell me about those years. You kind of had this hiatus. Did you ever think about giving up on music?
No, I never gave up on music not for a minute. I was just playing around New York City in bands. I wanted to distance myself from the hair metal or whatever you want to call it thing. It's questionable if Spread Eagle was hair metal, but we got lumped into that. And so I was playing in, like, you know, heavy alternative bands, crazy bands like that, punky bands in the East Village in Manhattan. And no, I never gave up music at all. I never stopped.
So is that why you were kind of hesitant? Because I think it was like 2004, you got this offer to do bass, kind of a bass for hire for George Lynch. Was it because you were reluctant because you didn't want to get lumped into the hair metal thing? Yeah.
I still hadn't come to terms with Spread Eagle. I was never at a point where I hated Spread Eagle, but I was at a point where I was careful about what style of musician to label myself because of the industry. You know, the backlash against anyone who was hair metal, you know, was during the grunge era was extreme. So I was still very careful. And because of that, I didn't listen to Spread Eagle we broke up probably about 10 years. I didn't listen to it at all. And the true story of Ray and I were in touch. Ray was doing the same thing. He was playing in bands in Manhattan and still trying to succeed. in '04, okay, well, I'll answer your question first. In '04, a friend named Ray Freeman Jr., who was someone who booked Spread Eagle a lot back in the day, up in the Middletown, New York area, he wanted me to play for Lynch. And he was the tour manager for Lynch, and he was putting a band together. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that kind of music. And I fought him. He was a dear friend, so I could be, I could bust his ass. And I fought him tooth and nail on that. And I ended up doing it, and I had so much fun. It was, I apologized to him because I was like, it was nothing but good vibes. I'm still good friends with George. He's a very nice guy. He treated me great. And so it was just such a great experience, just at least for me personally, that I apologized to Ray. And then all of a sudden I was looking at the world differently. Like, well, maybe I could be a bassist for hire, And that was '04. And around that time, I played with Joan Jett for a little bit, but also around that time, we got Spread back together in 2006. And the way that happened was I hadn't listened to Spread Eagle in so long. We had a friend, I was bartending, and I had a friend named Dave Harrington, who was studio manager at Green Street Studios, where we mixed our first album. And he would always come into the bar and drink. And he was like, you got to get Spread Eagle back together. I'm like, no way, leave me alone, And one night he snuck up into the DJ booth and cranked Broken City super, super, super ear bleeding loud. And I was like, whoa, what's this? This is awesome. It took me a good 10, 15 seconds to realize what it was, but I was loving it. And when I realized it was Spread Eagle, it's the first time I had listened to it in so long. I was like, wow, this is really, this is really great music. And maybe I should talk to Ray, because people have been asking us, and we had a couple conversations, and I know personally I was saying it's not the time for me, and Ray probably was saying the same thing. It wasn't like Ray was calling me saying, we need to do this. We were both like, just very ambivalent about it, But when I heard that, I called Ray. I said, I really think it's time to do this again. And that was '06. And then we booked some little tours, and so it started coming back.
Yeah, and then you did the Subway to the Stars album, which is some of the best reviews you guys have gotten, and you worked really hard on that, and you could tell. I mean, it's co-produced and mixed by these Grammy winners, and The Sound of Speed, such a great song, and a funny video. I don't want to spoil it. People need to check it out, but it's a great video too. And so yeah, are you guys going to be doing another album with Spread Eagle coming up?
Yeah. We just to touch on that video, remember the band Law and Order?
No.
They were on MCA at the same time we were.
Okay.
So they were about as popular as we were. The guitar player directed that video, Phil Luca.
Okay.
He's gone on to become a director of movies. He directed a movie called The Truth About Lies, which is really great. And he does a lot of TV commercials. So he directed the video. We're still really good friends since back then. But yes, we've written pretty much a new album, and I'm going out with Bach now. So we're going to start recording it around Christmas.
Okay. Yeah. So you're in Sebastian Bach's band, and then you became friends with Bumblefoot on the Guns N' Roses tour, and that's how you got the job in UFO. So tell me about that one, because was there anyone else considered, or was it just that that Bumblefoot had put in a word for you, so you just got the job, or did you have to audition or anything? Or
I didn't have to audition. I went right into 2 rehearsals and then a tour. So yeah, Ron, Bach did about 100 shows with GNR, and I did about 80 of them. So very fortunate to do that, because it's quite a school of learning when you're direct support for GNR.
Mm-hmm.
So and I became friends with Ron, who's a great guy and just an incredible musician.
Yeah, I had him on the show. I love him.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's so talented. He's funny. So he's friends with Vinny, and without me knowing, Vinny was putting word out that they needed someone because Pete Way couldn't get into the country, USA. And this is probably the second time he was unable to get in. So it was like, it was becoming a problem. So I don't know if they were considering anyone else because I wasn't privy to any of that. Yeah, so I have a brother-in-law that knew Vinny because Vinny and I are both from Delaware, even though I'd never met Vinny. So I had a brother-in-law that knew Vinny, and so that helped also. And someone got me his email address, and they were considering me, and it just happened.
And you're in. That's awesome. And then tell me about this, because I know the original bass player Pete Way, rest in peace, but you said that you mentioned you'd actually talked to him online a few times. Like, he was supportive of you being in the band. Explain to me that exchange, because that seems to be pretty rare for somebody to reach out to their replacement and be supportive of that. Usually there's like a bitterness, or you reject or resent the person that takes over for you. But it sounds like he was a class act.
He was a class act from what I hear. But I didn't reach out to him until like maybe 10 years after I was in the band. And I'm not sure if it was him or his web master, they were acting like him. But I heard once someone said he has a webmaster who actually does that stuff. So I'm not sure, but they were very friendly. And he was a class act. Everyone told me that.
Yeah.
And they loved him. They loved him all along, They just wanted to keep functioning. It's as simple as that.
Right. And the fans accepted you. And Eddie Trunk, he's like one of the biggest UFO fans. You got his blessing as well, right? Because he's such a big fan of that band.
So. I hope so. But I'm friends with him.
That's cool. And then, so tell me about this, because you get to not only play with UFO, but you actually get to bring your ideas to the band and contribute in the songwriting process. So is it more exciting to actually play in UFO or to actually help contribute to the songwriting?
Probably contribute to the songwriting. It's hard to say. They're both amazing. The recording is a very small chunk of time that I've been with him. Most of it was, we did 2 albums, but most of it has been tours, And in the time UFO was actually busier than Bach. So they were a functioning band until COVID hit. Even though, they're older than Bach, they're tour dogs, and they're used to doing that their whole life.
Yeah. So what happened so it's the farewell tour, but now it's rescheduled for 2022. So is it still the last round, or is the door open for future dates?
I mean, I can't make those decisions, and it's nice to say never, but I'm hearing the last show is in Athens, Greece in October of 22. Okay.
And would Michael Schenker, would he come back for a leg of dates or on stage for a couple songs at all or anything? Or
again, I'm not the person to ask about that, but see, they don't dislike Michael either. The vibe I get when I'm there is that they just don't think these shows will happen with other people. They're not confident other people will show up. Because Michael quit the band 3 times.
Oh.
So, and at times left them in a lurch where they were mid-tour, So it's, if anyone, of course they could explain it better than me, but if anyone thinks there's these people hate each other, they absolutely do not. It's just when you sign contracts to do a tour and someone doesn't show up, it puts the people who do show up in a really bad position. And I think all these years, they just haven't thought that certain people would show up, or show up and be able to do the job.
Right. Well, that's why I suggest maybe if he just came up, if it was like his hometown or something, he just comes up for a couple songs or something, I don't know.
I mean,
might be cool.
It might be, but Vinny's been there for all those years, holding the torch and making it, the band lost a lot of confidence for years because of those people quitting and those people showing up, not being able to play, to their standards. So it took a lot of years with Vinny to build that confidence again, and you have to respect that also.
Absolutely. He's a phenomenal guitar player.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. So you mentioned Guns N' Roses. Now you were playing with Sebastian Bach, but weren't you also playing with Helmet? So you did double duty. You played Helmet and then Sebastian Bach. Now, I mean, it's got to be nice to have the double paycheck, but how hard is that doing the double duty?
Well, I didn't take any money from Helmet because
What?
I just wanted to do it because I just wanted to do it as a favor. So I didn't take any money. I think I got a T-shirt.
That's so nice of you.
Well, I was already getting paid. I was already there, and I didn't want to be opportunistic about it. Like, they were in a bad place. It's a long story, but I'll do a condensed version. GNR is always a big deal and a fantastic tour, but the reason Helmet came on is because Queens of the Stone Age, no, not Queens of the Stone Age, Eagles of Death Metal were on the tour for one show, and the crowd didn't like it, and they made it clear that they didn't like it. So Eagles of Death Metal were on and off the tour in like 20 minutes. So having said that, and that's not any indictment on their talent or anything. It's just,
different styles,
very particular, and it is different styles. But then the Eagles of Death Metal started saying some nasty things in the press, and I didn't think that was very nice. And so all of a sudden there was some weird vibes around the tour. And, everyone was feeling it. I know I was, and it was, I was feeling very protective of the tour because it was a big, it's a huge deal to me. And, it's your work, it's your art, it's your, it's bigger level than you've ever been on. So, I thought it was horrible that they were saying some petty things, but, so anyway, I'm going somewhere with this. So then Helmet came on, and we're talking probably 2 days later from Eagles of Death Metal. Sorry if I get those. Yeah. I love Queens of Stone Age.
I love both those bands, actually. Yeah, they're great.
So it was like 2 days later, and Helmet come on, and we are starting the Canadian leg of the tour, which is probably, I don't know, about 8 shows, 9 shows, I'm guessing, somewhere in there. So Helmet's bassist can't get in the country because he had a prior marijuana charge, I believe. So so they call ahead from the border control saying, now we had just had this situation with the band being thrown off tour, and then all the negative gossip around that, and now Helmet can't get into the country. So again, it's it's GNR. There's a lot of tickets sold, and people are still going to be happy. But so I wanted things to go right. I didn't want this. I wanted this drama to end, and I didn't want the drama to compound with now Helmet can't do it. So they asked me to do it, and they radioed ahead, and I got word through the roadies because we didn't have self-service, in Canada. And I learned the songs, and I had a show that night, and it went great. And I did the whole tour. But I just wanted to explain my feelings at the time because all of a sudden there was like this black cloud, and so I didn't want to be opportunistic about it and, squeeze them for money or anything like that. I just wanted it to go well. I was already on the tour. I don't even know if Helmet were on the entire tour. I guess they were at that point. But I just wanted it to be successful. And I feel like maybe I helped it a little bit.
Yeah, you stand-up guy. Wow. So yeah, tell me about that tour though. You said that you partied with Guns N' Roses like every night until 6 a.m. or 8 a.m.
A lot. Yeah, the party always went till sun up, definitely. The only thing, I mean, Baz and Axel can sleep all day, but we have to be up and loading our stuff in.
Okay.
The band, but yeah, we we went pretty hard on those tours, you know, but it was a lot of tours. It wasn't just one tour. We did South America, we did Europe, we did a couple US runs, we did Australia. So it was pieces. And then sometimes there would be long pieces without, you know, without touring with them.
Mm-hmm.
And Europe actually was more than one European tour. It was, so we started in Europe in like 2005, and then we went back to Europe. So yeah, so it was a lot of tours.
Oh, that sounds so fun to party with Axel and Baz.
Yeah, he's a great guy, and the people that talk shit about him probably have never met him. He's a really, really, really generous, nice person.
Oh, I'm sure.
Smart and very intense.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan for sure. I'm a fan of both those guys. So Sebastian, so joining that band, I guess I didn't realize he found you because he was a fan of Spread Eagle. I think that's really cool. He said some really nice things about you in the press.
Yeah. So we kind of, he came up and sung Broken City with us in 1990 or 1991 on stage, which was awesome. And again, like you said, he said some nice things, which, you know, he was on the top of the heap at that point. So when someone like him is saying nice things, it really helps. So we got in touch in, after I did the Lynch thing, and he said he was needing a bassist because Steve DiGiorgio, who was in the band at the time, was leaving. And so I started with some rehearsals, just helping them out for rehearsals that Steve couldn't make, for some shows that Steve was doing. And I did some rehearsals, and then Steve left.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm a big fan of his solo work and his stuff with Skid Row, but there's a lot of material to pull from. What is your favorite song to play live? I mean, I would think Piece of Me is fun because of the bass line, or is there another one that you really like?
It's fun. Well, we don't do, at the moment, we were doing a lot of his solo stuff over the years, because I started with Baz in 2005. But in the last few years, it's gravitated to being mostly Skid Row stuff. We do the song American Metalhead that Baz wrote, that Metal Mike wrote for Baz's album Angel Down. But other than that, we've gravitated mostly to Skid Row material. And but to answer your question, I like playing In a Dark Room a lot. I like playing Monkey Business a lot. The Threat is fun to play. I mean, I like playing them all, but those are really fun. In a couple years ago, we did the debut album 30th anniversary.
Yeah.
And so I learned those songs. So Midnight Tornado, I think, is the name of it. So yeah, there's a lot that are.
Yeah. So because
I'm learning different ones.
Yeah, because this tour is the 30th anniversary of Slade with a Grind. So can you give away? I mean, obviously it's going to be the whole album, but is it the set list? Like, is it going to do Beggar's Day and Get the Fuck Out, or is it just one or the other? And like, are they doing any of the?
Do everything.
Okay.
Do everything. Yeah.
Are they going to do like what is it, Holiday in the Sun, or any of the B-sides or any of that stuff?
I haven't learned those, so
okay.
I hope not.
But Beggar's Day and Get the Fuck Out, that's kind of cool because yeah, it's like one
of them. I've learned both of them. So,
okay.
Yeah.
What about I just had the singer from Kaleido on. Have you listened to them at all? Because they're going to be the opening band.
Not yet, but I will be hearing them every night.
That'll be fun. Yeah, I think I'm excited to see both you guys because like I just became a fan of them recently. I was like, oh, these guys are really good. So did he? Cool. I'm told that Sebastian picked them personally. I think. I'm
sure he did.
Yeah. Okay. Because he could have his pick of a lot of bands that.
He might have been recommended by someone else, but he definitely listened to them and okayed it.
Yeah. Okay. What is your take on the Sebastian Bach, Chris Jericho feud? Is that real? Because I know wrestling's fake and Chris Jericho's is this like a fake thing that they're just like putting us all on? Or are they really in a feud?
It's real, but it seems very silly to me. Like I don't think they should be fighting. I've never met Chris Jericho. I'm sure he's a nice guy. But if the issue is about lip syncing, I am totally on Sebastian's side because I am so anti-lip tracks.
Tracks, yeah, I've heard you talk about that many times.
I'm very anti-running tracks. I've never done it. I've never been in a band that does it, and I think it's it's a cop out. I think it stunts your growth as a musician, as a performer, and as a musician. I think it's unnecessary. And even if, I mean, it's a fact. It's not as big if you don't, if you do not run tracks. It's not going to be as big and perfect. But the art form isn't about being perfect. It's about taking all of these tracks that you layered on your album and figuring out a live arrangement of that, and rising to the occasion of performing them in a nice way that your fans appreciate, and that you're doing a good job, So people lose that. They think it's about being perfect or being bigger, being the biggest, and making everything louder than everything else. That's not what a live band is being about. If you got 4 guys, you can only do so much.
Right.
That's the beauty of it. You being able to see it, not being blinded by all these layers of sound, so you can see how that musician plays and their level of talent, but also their level of style and their and that gets bombarded. When you're bombarded with all this information, you lose that, and that's not what being in a live band is to me.
Right. No, and I loved your take on this, because you said, you had a quote, something about, you're saying how a lot of the younger bands it's almost like they're scared of like failing or making a mistake. And that's almost like an interesting kind of like a metaphor for life. Like if you don't take risks, you're not going to be successful, in my opinion. Like I think you can't play it too safe like that. And using the backing tracks, I mean, that's like the ultimate way to play it way too safe, especially for a rock band. Like you said, you want it to be dangerous. It should be live, and you never know what can happen. And
yeah. And that's what those unexpecteds should happen. That's what rock and roll is, And I mean, I guess a band could give the argument that the industry has forced us to try to make everything so perfect because there's no margin for error, which is somewhat true. If you're in a new band, it's tough, but you should still just go for it, and do your best.
yeah. Well, and I love when you see a live band, like, especially when I've seen Skid Row or Sebastian play solo, it's like they're playing the songs heavier and faster than the studio versions. That's the whole point to me, of going to a concert. Like when you hear the songs faster and heavier and more aggressive with like more energy, that you can't really, if you're using backing tracks, I feel like it's just not going to be there.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that. And we do play things faster and heavier.
Yeah. I can't wait. Yeah. I can't wait to see you guys live. So, I mean, I don't know if you saw the recent thing with Sebastian in the press and him talking about his ex-bandmates, but he had kind of a good point. And I've had Rachel on. I love Rachel. I've met Sebastian twice. He was so nice to me. So they both seem like great people, but he did have a good point, how he said like that they say he's difficult to work with, but he's worked with the Gilmore Girls, and Guns N' Roses doesn't think he's difficult to work with. You've worked with him since 2005. Is he difficult? He must not be difficult to work with.
I'm going to be starting my 17th year with him.
Yeah.
In November.
So is it difficult to work with him? Or, I mean, you wouldn't stick around that long, I would think.
He's just the way he is. He's intense. He wears everything on his sleeve. If he's really into something, he's very, very passionate about it. And if he's not, he's very clear about that. But he also has a lot of energy. So you have to understand that when he is really into something or really against something, he's going to come at you with a lot of energy about that issue, that thing, and that's, once you understand that about him, you appreciate it, and he's one of the best I've ever seen at just turning it on, being able to turn it on, no matter how bad a day he's had or if he hasn't slept. He gets up there and you would never know. He's just so instantaneous about, turning into that, and there's a lot about him I respect. And so I would, I want to be out there playing. I want to work, because music is employment. It's, like I said, it's art. It's fun. It's social, but having said that, I would love to see him be back in Skid Row, because I know the feeling I got when I put Spread Eagle back together. Maybe not when I put it back together, but when I started putting albums out with Spread Eagle again, and we put out Subway to the Stars, it's like full circle. And that band that you came up with is the band that's probably most special to you, in a lot of ways. UFO are amazing, but their glory years were before I joined, 13 years ago,
Sure.
So even though it's amazing and I love it, and I appreciate it, I'm so lucky to be there, I'm not on those classic records, So everyone has a band. Most people have one band that was their thing when they were so innocent and, just so 100% do or die. And I know that was, for Baz, that was Skid Row. And I would love to see him back with them, because if they don't like that about him, that he's that intense, like when we toured with Poison, they all had their own bus and they were only together on stage. And I heard rumors actually after the fact that after the tour started, long after the tour started, that they don't get along, but I never saw it. Like they were so professional. If that's true, I never witnessed it. But I did hear that. And it's kind of like common knowledge, whether it's true or not. It's commonly out there that people say that. But they were so professional. They never argued in front of anyone. They showed up and they did their show, and their fans were happy about it. We did like 40 shows one summer of 2008. So I'd like to see Skid Row just get together and do it for the fans.
Yeah. Well, so it's got to be a little bit different though, because it's Sebastian Bach's band, right? So it's like he is like, if you guys have a disagreement, like he wins because it's Sebastian Bach. But if it's Skid Row, they kind of have to like, there's give and take. Like, what happens if you disagree with Sebastian on something? Do you feel comfortable expressing your opinions, or?
Often, if he's really upset about something, or or really into something, I might say it's his band and he's going to, and that's what he really wants. So, what's the point? But as far as Skid Row, I don't know how they would work their things out. I've only met Rob a few, so he was very nice.
Yeah.
Other guy I've met.
Yeah, I had Rachel on the show. He was great. And like I said, I haven't met Sebastian on the show, but I've met him twice. And I would love to have him on the show because I think it'd be a really fun interview because he's, like you said, he's so high energy. I think it would be an easy interview.
He's really, really, really funny.
Yeah, the 2 times I met him in person, it was a blast. I mean, yeah.
I mean, that's, even though I said he can turn it on, but that is him.
Right.
I just mean like the energy level and the entertainment level that, he could be having the worst day and then still, I mean, I know there's days where he barely slept were some of the best shows he's ever had. I don't know how, but they were. And he sung great, and he just.
Yeah, because that's his thing. I mean, he's beyond just a good singer. He's just such a good frontman and personality. And that's a huge piece of it, I think.
One of the best front.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so besides being in these other bands, are you still doing Of Earth? Because this is like your own kind of project where you play bass and sing in it.
Yeah. At the moment, I'm not. I mean, it's not a dead band, but Rick DeLuca also played drums on that from Spread Eagle. But it's not a dead band. But when you have, I feel that you can have one labor of love at a time, and that's Spread Eagle. Because we have momentum with the newest album, and we got great reviews on that. Like so, I'm gonna get that band back out there, and back into the industry machine before I think about Of Earth again, because I feel it would hurt Spread Eagle.
Sure.
Take away the momentum that we have going on at this moment. Yeah.
So you mentioned during the pandemic that you've spent a lot of time writing music. Now, when you're writing, are you writing specifically for UFO and then this one's for Spread Eagle and maybe even some for Sebastian, or do you just write a bunch of songs and then sort it out later?
I just write the the way I write. Most of the time, I just write kind of in two styles: a verse style, and everything else would be anything else I would write would work with all the other bands I play live in. But I'm focused on setting them right over here for Spread Eagle for our next album.
Very cool. Will Spread Eagle, will they do like any tours in the US?
Definitely. We're going to probably start in the new year. We had a shutdown because COVID, like everyone had to shut down. And so we're going to reschedule probably for early 2022.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, you got a lot of shows coming up then.
Around recording, because we're going to start recording in December.
Okay, yeah, because then you'll have Sebastian tour, and then there's shows with UFO, and so you're going to be very busy.
Yeah, I'm going to try to put Spread Eagle in between, because I know Sebastian's going till Christmas. I'm not sure what he's doing next year yet, and UFO has some stuff in the summer and has that October tour where they end.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Well, this has been a lot of fun. I like to end each episode with a charity. Is there one that you want to give a quick shout out to here?
I don't have one off the top of my head. So how about instruments for high school kids? There's got to be a charity for that.
Yeah, I'll find some. I think I've had people mention that stuff. Yeah, I'll Google some. I'll put it in the notes along with do you have a website that's just for you, or should I could put the Spread Eagle and Sebastian and UFO websites?
robdeluca.com, Spread Eagle NYC on, I think it's NYC or Spread Eagle Band on, Spotify, YouTube, etc. Oh, I have a website called vintagebassworld.com for gear geeks.
Okay.
So check that out. Thousands of pages, a website that's thousands of pages.
Wow. So okay.
I built it over a decade while on tour.
All right.
So yeah. Tens of thousands of pictures and of details of like basses and amps.
Okay. I'll put that in the notes as well. And I'll definitely check you out on the Sebastian Bach tour, and hopefully you'll come with Spread Eagle and maybe even UFO if we add dates on that one. I'm in Phoenix, by the way. So yeah, I'll see. I think Sebastian's playing the Marquee in December. So
yeah, I'll make sure that you're on the list.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know what that means, but so.
Well, after the interview, I'll explain.
Okay, cool. Well, then we'll end the interview right now, and we'll say goodbye to the audience. And
thank you, Chuck. Chuck Shoot Podcast. And what is the official name of the podcast?
Just the Chuck Shoot Podcast. Yeah, make it easy. So it's my name. It's just I don't know.
Definitely made it easy.
Yeah, I just thought that's what I like. I like Joe Rogan, Howard Stern. I was like, I'll just do what they do. Even they have a lot bigger names than me, but yeah. So.
Well, thank you for having me. It's really appreciated, and thank you to everyone for the support, and keep an eye out for the new Spread Eagle album next year and
Perfect.
Spread Eagle tours. And
awesome. Okay, well, thank you, audience, and I'll say goodbye. Rob DeLuca, I really enjoyed the stories in this one. I didn't know a lot about that stuff with Spread Eagle. I like his take on Sebastian and how he even wants him to get back together with Skid Row, even though he would lose that job. It just seems like a really good dude. So make sure to check out his band websites for tour dates: UFO, Sebastian Bach, and of course Spread Eagle. He's a very busy man, and I will definitely be seeing him on the Sebastian Bach tour with Kaleido. And if you don't know who Kaleido is, make sure to check out my interview with Christina Priss and check out their music. They're another great band as well. And make sure to follow Rob and all his bands on social media, and follow me too. Your likes, comments, and shares can help us both out quite a bit. And again, I'm just going to remind you to make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and also subscribe to the Spread Eagle YouTube channel if you can. We both appreciate that. I appreciate all your support. Have a great rest of your day, and remember to shoot for the moon.